Hi there, I'm Nicolas. I've been working for, let's say, quite some time on blockchain technologies, and I think it's important to explain a concept that took me time to understand. Do you really understand what blockchain is? Is it changing the way organizations communicate, the way they do business? How does it give access to new business opportunity? How does it simply reduce cost? I will try to give you a comprehensive picture of what you can expect from blockchain. A year ago, if you were asking me what blockchain was about, I would have replied either by a technical or functional description of what I thought this technology was about. I would have said it is a system that allows organizations to make trustable transactions directly without third parties, or it's a network of computers connected through the internet, sharing the same data that's encrypted and immutable. So I understand that by allowing organizations to make secure transactions without third party, it costs me less and it goes faster. I understood that with a dispatch database, a record of encrypted transactions, and through a consensus where new transactions are validated, my data is safe and trustable. But my problem was, how do I come from this to that? In other terms, how does blockchain empower the business? Well, first, you will be disappointed because if you actually run a business and you want to leverage some blockchain's cool stuff that disrupt the market that you've seen on the TV, then I must tell you that it's probably not going to happen. You should ask yourself, why am I considering this technology and what do I expect from it? But wait, let me clarify something. There are three types of different blockchain. A public blockchain, which is transparent and all its data, its block and transaction can be audited, mined and executed by anyone. It's the most popular and the only way to have a full self-controlled system with immutability. It's disruptive because the only type of blockchain that can really get rid of institutional third parties like banks and public institutions. Transactions are slower. It takes more time and energy to be executed as it has to be executed by a large number of miners, but it makes this blockchain type incredibly more secure. There are plenty of use cases, but the reality is that it's complex to enforce because it aims to change or disrupt the industry. And therefore, you have to gain confidence from a large number of people or companies. If you are not a blockchain-based platform company, or if you don't want to replace banks and governments, I would recommend you to look for a more suitable solution. Then you have private blockchain, which is just the opposite. Data is private, network controlled, and participants are selected by the owner, a legal entity. The data and rules can be modified by the owner, which make transactions faster and cheaper due to the low number of validators to reach the consensus. You hear about this technology less frequently because it's not disruptive, often considered as a non-real blockchain, but it doesn't mean private blockchains are useless. And finally, consortium or federated blockchain are secure networks controlled by a pre-selected set of nodes owned by different entities and sharing the same goals. It tries to leverage the advantage of both technologies. It allows organizations to work under the same rules and share data in the same format. Integration, automation, and efficiency between different entities working together. But what about giving an example to illustrate my words? Imagine you are leading an international hotel group in which each hotel works as a single entity, like sort of franchise system. The group decides on matters such as marketing, brand strategy, pricing, and they collect parts of hotel's revenue at the fee. On the other hand, each hotel is a legal entity doing its own accounting, IT, hiring its own employees, handling its order and invoicing its customers directly. Customers can reserve a room through a central website. The bidding and the room scheduler are managed by applications held in each hotel, and all data is stored in some strong, powerful centralized database. At each hotel, receptionists can accept orders and payments by cash or credit card. They can check and modify reservation. They can hang out digital keys to customers to access the room for a certain duration. Although it's not seen as a real problem for you, the chain owner, each hotel manually returns financial data in a different format, and you reconcile accounts based on what they give you. Additionally, you are worried about a potential failure of any application, database or terminal, because without them, an hotel can't work properly. Blockchain is not your core business, and even if you have no critical problems, you are still concerned by security, especially with the new regulation and because it concerns your customers as well. Your plan is to invest in this technology because you want to reduce cost by automating and securing some manual background processes. At least, that's your goal. when you decide to implement a blockchain. Regarding your situation, a federated blockchain implemented by the group or imposed on the hotels can be interesting as it adds automatization and transparency while keeping data in a private sphere, especially customer's name and discounted price. So each hotel would be invited to act as a participant to validate each transaction and to keep its own version of the ledger. Okay, I'm delighted to hear that I need a federated blockchain, but for what? In fact, I think people are focusing too much on the word blockchain and forget to understand a central concept that's smart contracts. Smart contracts are protocols that facilitate the verification, the negotiation, and the execution of a contract. Smart contracts are not smarts and not contracts. There are no terms, no conditions, no instructions for future dispute resolution, no access to legal remedies, no proof of mutual intent and acceptance. It's just a piece of code that takes data as input, executes function, stores the result in a book called a ledger, and outputs results. But this code allows any assets, like native tokens, like coins, like property titles, like financial options, like certifications, license, patents, or even hotel nights or any valuable thing that you can own to be exchanged. In our international company, we can imagine a customer paying for a night and the transactions being recorded. It generates a case that will be used by the door lockers on the date of the arrival. In case the customer doesn't show up, the money will be given back. We can imagine different functions to be implemented in smart contracts to query or modify the ledger. For example, a function to buy your company's cryptocurrency with which your customers will pay for nights, or simply function to pay for nights. Then a function to query a digital entry key used by those lockers every day to re-init the digicode, and a function to query a digital entry keys but used by customers to get the key when he arrives at the hotel. Okay, but what difference with a traditional centralized database? Good question. There is a difference between technical capabilities and business possibilities. There are few things blockchains can do that a traditional centralized database can't when we talk about technical capabilities. However, a new world opens up to you when you compare the business possibilities. For example, I can give 50 euros and my car to someone I meet in the street and ask him to refuel my car. It is technically possible. But a normal person wouldn't do that unless you trust that guy as much as your best friend. In fact, it depends on the type of blockchain you will deploy, and the advantage will be different. In our case, with a federated blockchain, you avoid corruption and gain transparency from the hotels and employees, because no room can be sold without being recorded in the ledger. No room can be opened without a record in the ledger. No falsification, no hidden transaction. With a traditional database, hotels return data from their system and no guarantee that this has been modified, for example, to pay less fees. Your system is distributed. It runs on a dozen of nodes based in different countries, such in case of any failure from your website, payment model, credit card terminal, database, or even a participant node, the customer will still be able to order and access their room. With a third-party application, integrated to other processing models such as payment or key generation and so on, a single failure in the system can lead to a loss of money for your hotel. Your ledger is more than ever secure. It uses a cryptographic algorithm to link each transaction from the beginning and a consensus to validate any new entry. Therefore, even if hacked, your data can't be modified. Your cash can't be stolen. No rooms will be sold for free even if your system is corrupted. With traditional systems, intrusion in your network gives plenty of possibilities for hackers to steal or modify your data. You can sell vouchers to make reservations for future points in time, allowing you to collect cash before rooms are reserved. Because, yeah, isn't it safer for your customer to deal with a cryptocurrency stored on a blockchain, whereas a database that's not trustable for every reason we have already listed before? If you think so, your customers will think the same. You can't play the role of a bank without a strong, secure ledger. Again, with your own cryptocurrency, you can smooth the group commercial strategy by applying commercial offer on coins that can be used in any hotels of the group, whatever the localization and the local currencies are. With a centralized database, you will have to think differently. And probably you would implement a manual process that involves human validation and would probably cost you more than it pays. You give a proof to your investor, auditors and inspectors that your orders or your invoice haven't been modified, like you could do in a centralized database. Even a DBA or a super admin could not modify the data. You gain more confidence from your investor. Unlike with a standard database, you don't have to reconcile your heterogeneous IT systems and accounting standards. All records are in a single ledger. Would you tell me how would you perform that without a blockchain? Okay, it makes sense. But why blockchain and not something else? There must be an alternative, no? The problem with code is that it can be hacked, especially if you run the code on a single platform. The owner of this platform could modify the data. To prevent any entities from modifying data, we need a decentralized physical support and a consensus mechanism for validation. Then, to prevent hackers from altering data, we need a secured encrypted data registry and a ledger recording all transactions from the beginning. And to make transactions trustable and auditable by a third party, we need a unique private key to authenticate the transaction and a shared replicated ledger between the participants. And wow, we've just listed the key properties of any type of blockchain. Now, there are some topics you must consider before you start a project. First, keep in mind that participants must blindly trust in developers as they develop and audit the code. Also, the cost of implementation is higher than a simple program, considering the immutable and irrevocable nature of a smart contract. A full audit by each participant and a debug are crucial because once implemented, maintenance and evolution will be much more complex to manage. Then, it might not be as flexible as you would expect to adapt to the changing business requirements. It can still be hacked. And unlike with a centralized database, the revocability is complex, if not impossible. Also, there is no legal assistance as a smart contract is just code. There's no courts, there's no judgments, no interpretations, and no modification, no cancellation. Finally, it is very sensitive to the quality of its input data. Do not implement a secure and EV transaction system if the input data comes from a non-trustable standard system, from a lightly secured sensor, or from a non-validated human filled form. Now, it's time to conclude. There are different types of blockchain and many use cases. The best business case is your business case. Blockchain can be useful for a lot of reasons, like better security, higher transparency, and optimal automation and integration between companies resulting in lowering cost. But take in consideration what the limitations are. Don't think too big if you have no experience. Remember, blockchain can also be used for a non-disruptive scenario and it won't replace paper's contract. The need for a blockchain-based platform, an institution, a government, a private company are totally different, and therefore the technology underneath should be adapted. But if you are new with this technology, and if you think of implementing a blockchain, or if you simply wonder what can you do with it, ask yourself, do you want to propose a new service to your customers or simply reduce the cost? Are you looking for more transparency or automation? What asset, whether it is material or immaterial, do you exchange with your customers and suppliers? Do you want to regulate or standardize a market, a logistic chain? Or do you want simply to propose something different to your customers? Who are your competitors and your partners? Do you have mutual goals? And finally, do you trust your suppliers? And do you think your customers trust you? Thank you for watching this video. I hope it helped you get a better idea of what everyone talks about. I tried a new approach to describe this technology and I hope it worked. Maybe some of you know I work for Oracle and Oracle offers a federated blockchain cloud service. If you are interested to know more or if you have any comments or questions, please get in touch with me. See you in the next video. Bye bye!